The words were a surgical strike, precise and cold. After tomorrow, you're not part of this family anymore. They came not as a shout, but as a whisper, a venomous secret passed from my son's fiancée, Jessica, to me on the threshold of the rehearsal dinner. I stood frozen, the heavy scrapbook of Daniel's life, my life's work, held between us like a shield. She didn't even glance at it. The expected reaction, tears, pleas, a scene, didn't come. Instead, a peculiar numbness settled over me. It wasn't the shock of the new, it was the grim confirmation of a fear I'd carried for months. I simply nodded, a stiff, mechanical motion, turned, and walked back to my car. I drove home through a blur of streetlights, not to collapse in grief, but to prepare for a war I hoped would never come, because Daniel and I had a plan. 3 months earlier, over burnt toast and strong coffee in my modest kitchen, my son had broken down. "She's different when you're not there, Mom," he'd confessed, his voice hollow. "It's little things. She mocks your job, calls the scrapbooks you made me pathetic relics. She's planning the wedding like it's a corporate takeover, and I'm just the logo." He looked at me, his eyes, so like his father's but infinitely kinder, filled with a confused despair. "I love her, but I'm starting to not recognize the man I am when I'm with her. I'm starting to let things slide. About you." That was the dagger, not the insult to me, but the erosion of him. We talked for hours. He had no proof of anything concretely evil, just a growing mountain of subtle cruelties and a gut feeling that screamed of wrongness. A direct confrontation would achieve nothing. Jessica was a master of gaslighting, of twisting concern into control. "She'll just say I'm a mama's boy, that you've poisoned me," he said, defeated. That's when I'd proposed it, the idea feeling both desperate and necessary. "Then we have to be smarter. We have to let her believe she's won. Let her believe she's pushed me out completely. That's when people like her get careless. They show their true colors when they think no one is watching." Daniel had been horrified. "Ask me to pretend to push you away? I can't." "You're not pushing," I said, taking his hand. "You're stepping back so we can both see clearly. We need irrefutable proof, Daniel, not for me, I already know, for you, so that when you walk away, you never have to look back and wonder if you made a mistake." The plan was simple in theory, agonizing in practice. Daniel would stop defending me so vigorously. He'd gently question some of my traditions, like the annual birthday cake, citing new priorities. He'd let Jessica believe her narrative, the clingy, overbearing mother, was taking root. My role was to be patient, to absorb the slights with a sad smile, to become gradually more distant. The final act, the crucial test, would be the wedding. We suspected Jessica would make a definitive move to sever the tie completely. When she did, I would react as she expected, heartbroken and defeated. I would not attend. My absence would be the signal to Daniel that the moment had come, that the mask was fully off. It was a gamble with the highest possible stakes, his happiness, our relationship, but we were out of better options. So when Jessica leaned in with her glittering eyes and delivered her coup de grace that night before the wedding, the performance of a lifetime was on. The numbness I felt was real, the horror of hearing the words aloud, but the shattered paralysis I displayed was for her benefit. I let my hands tremble on the scrapbook. I let my breath hitch. I made her believe her words had destroyed me. I drove home, and only then, behind the locked door of the house where I'd raised him, did the true emotion hit. It wasn't just anger at Jessica, it was a profound, aching sorrow for my son who had to stand at the altar of a lie. I took the scrapbook from its box. This wasn't just a prop, it was my heart bound in leather and cardstock. With meticulous care, I performed the final, secret step of our plan. In the spine of the book, hidden beneath a flap of the backing fabric, was a small, high-quality voice-activated recorder, a gift from a tech-savvy friend at the hospital. I checked it. The tiny light glowed green. It had been running since I entered the venue. I pressed stop, saved the file, and sent it to a secure cloud drive with a single pre-written text to Daniel. "The gift is ready. The box is under the bed." The message was our code. It meant the test had been administered and Jessica had failed catastrophically. The gift was the recording. The box under my bed was where I would hide the scrapbook and myself the next day. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and cruel. I moved through my kitchen like a ghost. I made coffee I wouldn't drink and laid out the pale blue dress Daniel loved. I watched my phone erupt with messages. His texts were masterpieces of dual meaning. "Mom, we're heading to the venue now. Can't wait to see you." "I'm playing my part. I'm scared." "Where are you? Everyone's asking." "Is it time? Did she do it?" "You're running late, aren't you? Typical." This is the character she expects me to be now. I hate it. His voicemail, panicked and pleading, was the hardest to hear. "Mom, where are you? Jessica says you weren't feeling well last night, but I know that's not true. Please, just call me back. Please." The raw pain in his voice wasn't fake. It was the agony of a good man enacting a terrible charade. My sister's frantic visit was an unscripted torment. "Margaret, what on earth are you doing?" she demanded, a vision in lilac taffeta. I wanted to confide in her, to spill the whole sordid plan, but secrecy was paramount. One hint of the truth, one softening of my resolution, and the whole delicate operation would collapse. I gave her the only truth I could afford. "He's marrying someone who told me to my face that I'm not part of his family anymore." Her shocked pity was a small comfort. When the church bells rang at 11, I was not in a pew. I was on my living room floor, the scrapbook in my lap, listening through headphones to the clear, damning audio from the night before. Jessica's whisper, crisp and cold as an ice pick. "After tomorrow, you're not part of this family anymore." Hearing it again in the sterile silence of my home fueled a cold fire in my veins. This was for Daniel. This was to set him free. At the church, the pageantry of disaster was unfolding. Daniel later told me every detail, his hand gripping mine as we sat in the same kitchen where the plan was born, the ordeal finally over. He had felt the recording, a tiny thumb drive tucked into the inside pocket of his tuxedo like a burning coal against his chest. All morning, Jessica had been a vision of serene triumph, convinced her last obstacle had crumbled. She'd even faux sympathized. "Poor thing, she must be so overwhelmed. It's probably for the best she's not here." Each word was another turn of the knife. As the organist began the prelude and the guests settled in, Daniel felt a terrifying clarity. He walked to the front, not to the groom's spot, but to the center of the altar platform. He turned to face the congregation. The pastor, confused, moved toward him. Jessica, at the back of the church, ready to make her entrance, peeked out, her smile slipping. "Before we begin," Daniel said, his voice echoing in the suddenly quiet church. It didn't tremble. It was the steady, clear voice of the lawyer he'd become. He took a small wireless speaker from the lectern, planted there earlier by his trusted best man, Mark. He took the thumb drive from his pocket. "Last night," Daniel continued, his eyes finding Jessica's now pale face at the back of the aisle, "my mother came to bring us a gift, a book of memories, of our life. This is what she was met with." He pressed play. The audio was crystalline, the ambient noise of the rehearsal dinner, the clink of glasses, distant laughter. Then my voice, hesitant and warm. "Jessica, I made this for Daniel." A pause, and then Jessica's whisper, slithering through the speaker, filling the sacred space. "After tomorrow, you're not part of this family anymore." A collective gasp sucked the air from the church. Jessica's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with pure, undiluted horror. This was not a rumor, not hearsay complaint from a disgruntled mother. This was her voice, her own words, immutable and undeniable. The recording played on, her dismissive, venomous sentences laying bare her contempt. "You're just extra baggage. I've tolerated you enough. Don't come tomorrow." Daniel stopped the recording. The silence that followed was absolute, a physical weight. He looked directly at Jessica, who seemed to be shrinking inside her monumental dress. "You told the woman who raised me, who sacrificed everything for me, that she was not family?" Daniel's voice cracked slightly. "You believed you could cut the root and keep the tree. But you don't understand what family is. This," he gestured to the speaker, to the stunned faces, "this cruelty, this is who you are when you think you've won, and I will not tie my life to it." Chaos erupted. Jessica's mother shrieked, "It's a fake! She edited it!" Her father stormed toward the altar, shouting about defamation. But the truth in the audio was self-evident. The guests' faces had transformed from confusion to revulsion. They weren't looking at a jilted bride. They were looking at an exposed manipulator. Jessica found her voice, a strangled shout. "She set me up! That old witch set me up! You and her always against me!" The mask was not just off, it was shattered, revealing the furious, spiteful core beneath. Daniel simply took off his boutonniere and placed it on the lectern. "The wedding is off," he announced, his voice final. He walked down the center aisle, past the open-mouthed guests, past Jessica, who reached for him with a claw-like hand he didn't acknowledge. Mark fell into step beside him, and they walked out of the church and out of the life Jessica had designed. The fallout was immediate and seismic. The story, of course, exploded, but the narrative was unassailable. Groom cancels wedding after playing fiancé's cruel whisper to mother. The audio clip, which Daniel reluctantly released to a trusted news outlet to control the narrative, went viral. Public sympathy was unequivocally with us. Jessica's attempts to claim it was edited were debunked by independent forensic audio analysts. Her subsequent meltdowns on social media only cemented her role as the villain. There was no messy affair to uncover, no financial scheming to expose, though in the following weeks, as Jessica's true character became public, whispers of her past manipulations and materialistic drives surfaced from old friends and colleagues, validating every one of Daniel's dormant fears. The prenup, which we reviewed later, was merely aggressively in her favor, a testament to greed, but not the criminal fraud of other scenarios. The core evil was simpler and in some ways more personal, a profound inhumanity. In the quiet aftermath, the real healing began. The first night Daniel came to my house, still in his tuxedo pants and a wrinkled shirt. He didn't say a word. He just walked in, buried his face in my shoulder, and sobbed, great heaving breaths that shook both of us. I held him, my own tears soaking into his hair. All the tension, the deception, the heartache of the past months poured out. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I made you go through that. I let her—" "Shh," I whispered, stroking his hair like when he was a child. "You didn't let her do anything. We caught her, together. You were brave enough to doubt and then brave enough to act." He pulled back, his face ravaged but clear. "I heard the recording in the church, and all I could think was, that's the woman who wanted to be the mother of my children. That whisper in the dark would have been the foundation of everything." He shuddered. "You saved me from a life of slow poison." We spent the next days in a quiet bubble, talking not of Jessica, but of everything else. We cooked together, watched old movies, and finally he asked to see the scrapbook. We sat on the couch and went through it page by page. This time, there were no hidden recorders, only honest memories and the fresh, fragile joy of a battle won.